Hello everyone. Welcome to the interview series of Evincepub Publishing. I'm your host Riya Singh with you, and today we are joined by Manish Panchmatia, sir, an IT procurement and digital sourcing leader with a global experience across technology delivery, IT sales, program management, and strategic sourcing. Currently leading an IT procurement for a bank headquarters in Sweden. Sir, welcome here. Primarily today, I'm very thrilled to be here to be discussing your book, Buying Beyond Technology. So, how are you today?
I'm fine, and thank you, Ria, for the warm welcome. Nice to
Yeah.
meet you as well.
I would say little ecstatic to know more about your book. So, first question to you, dive straight that what inspired you to write this book, especially that focused on IT procurement and digital.
Yeah, so over the years, what I have noticed is that while technology decisions were becoming increasingly strategic and complex, the approach to IT procurement did not evolve at the same pace. Now, there is a lot of content about procurement and technology individually, but we find a very little structured guidance on how modern IT procurement actually works in practice. Now, this book is written to help build a stronger foundation for professionals navigating increasingly complex digital and sourcing environments, especially for procurement professionals who are seeking a career in IT procurement.
Great. So you have mentioned that there is very limited structural education, or I would say practical guidance, specifically focused on IT procurement and yes, digital sourcing. So why do you think that this gap exists, and how does this book specifically, or I would say particularly address this point?
So, if you look at my book, initial chapters, it talks about how procurement has evolved over the years. The focus has largely been on direct procurement categories, operational sourcing, and consulting led transformation models. IT procurement, however, has evolved very differently. There has been a rapid technology disruptions in the market across cloud, SaaS, digital platforms, and more recently AI, which is disrupting the market big time. Now, this has accelerated far faster than the traditional procurement structures could adapt to. As a result, a lot of professionals in the procurement area, they rely on fragmented experience rather than structural guidance. So, because of this gap, and this is exactly what motivated me to write the book, this book actually attempts to bridge that gap by providing foundational thinking that helps the organization and professional take a more modern approach towards IT sourcing with a more structured, strategic, and cross functional mindset.
So, in the book, you mentioned that IT procurement is no longer just a support function, but a strategic business capability. So, what major industry shift led to this transformation?
So, traditionally, IT was seen as a support function, but nowadays, and since almost a decade or so, IT increasingly underpins the organization's competitiveness, scalability, customer experience, and which indirectly impacts the business growth. So IT decisions around cloud, SaaS, vendor ecosystems, etc., directly influence the long-term business outcomes. IT is not just a support function, but IT procurement actually helps sourcing the right IT solutions, technology platforms. So this mind is from this whole transactional activity based procurement into developing a more strategic capability that will shape the organization's resilience and agility and business growth. And with AI rapidly disrupting the operating model, the vendor dynamics, and also the decision making itself, the complexity of IT procurement is entering an entirely new phase, something that I will explore in the next book. But this book actually builds the foundation around that.
Okay, so let's just dive into the traditional approaches. Why the traditional approaches no longer in use? So my question to this area is that why do traditional procurement model often fail in this modern digital environment?
Yeah, it's a good question. See, traditional procurement models, as mentioned earlier, were designed for relatively stable purchasing environments. We had a clear ownership, much more predictable requirements, more or less commoditized requirements, and the primary focus was often on short-term cost gains. Now, this traditional procurement model does not work in the modern digital environments because you have far more dynamically changing requirements. The disruption in the market influences those requirements almost on a daily basis or even monthly, weekly basis. There, the mindset has to be consumption driven. So, as mentioned earlier, SaaS, cloud, agile delivery, etc. Those models require much faster decision making capabilities. It needs a much closer collaboration with your business, with your other support functions, and a stronger governance throughout the contract life cycle. So it's not just signing the contract, showing short-term gains, and ticking the box, the which was the mindset for the traditional procurement, and that's where it fails here.
Oh, great. So, how greatly pointed out this thing, how you talked about cloud computing and SaaS
Yeah.
platforms. So, how this changed the mindset procurement professionals need today?
Yeah. So SaaS and cloud, these are just two of the many categories within the modern IT procurement world, but they remain highly relevant because they have fundamentally shifted sourcing from a one-time purchase decision to an ongoing operational and business model decision. Now, if you talk about cloud computing or cloud, there was a time when cloudification was considered innovative, was also seen as a cost efficient solution by default. But organizations today are taking a far more cautious governance driven approach, especially with hyperscalers, where if your environments are poorly managed, it could quickly lead to ballooning cloud cost and diluting your whole business case. So procurement teams now need to think beyond upfront pricing. They need to consider aspects like scalability, integration, governance, data management, your vendor dependencies, your consumption patterns, and a long-term commercial implication. So rise of cloud computing and SaaS platform actually requires procurement professional to think long-term, consumption-driven models when signing the contracts. And looking ahead, growing AIification of the enterprise, where you have a lot of agentic AIs utilizing the SaaS platform, that will significantly reshape how SaaS consumption models work. Again, something for the next book.
Okay, so you discussed the evolution from transactional procurement to digital ecosystem procurement. So, which stage particular do you think that most organizations are currently struggling with, and they have to work on this particular issue?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the environments are becoming more and more complex with multiple IT tools, SaaS platforms, IT service providers operating within the organization. Now, organizations have traditionally relied on divide and rule vendor management approaches, thereby you're not efficiently managing your digital ecosystem. So, what organization needs is to consider your vendors as true partners in delivering long-term business goals. The real value unlocks when you actually have multiple platform providers and service integration partners working together. So, in this environment, the role of procurement extends far beyond the initial purchase decision or initial contract signing. It's an ongoing responsibility focused on ecosystem orchestration, working very closely with your IT leaders your business stakeholders, and support functions like legal, like finance, which will help drive sustainable outcomes.
Okay, you just mentioned about vendor ecosystem, which are becoming increasingly complex. So, what are the biggest risk organization face when managing the multiple technology vendor system?
Yeah. So now this, as I mentioned, almost every organization works with multi-vendor multi-technology vendor ecosystem.
Yeah.
Now, the biggest risk that often emerge is the gaps between the vendors, not so much within the individual suppliers or individual vendors. Now, organizations they commonly struggle when you don't have a clear accountability. There are a lot of integration complexity between the different tools, overlapping responsibilities. Your governance is weak. There is dependency risk between different vendors. And in many cases that I have seen, organizations actually lack the right competence to effectively manage the complex vendor ecosystem. So this is one of the biggest risk and the challenge, that you have lack of competence. Another aspect is also that organizations actually do not manage the vendor ecosystem in the right way. So it becomes unnecessarily large with too many platforms, too many tools, which reduces your ability to manage or increases the overhead to manage. And these are some of the risks which I think should be well mitigated or even avoided in some cases. Vendor and tool ecosystem should not simply grow large over time. They need to be always right sized for the organization, aligned to your business needs, and that therefore organization need to continuously assess for the optimization, efficiency, and governance effectiveness around those vendor ecosystem.
Rightly pointed out. Now, I would like to talk about the human capabilities and the cross
Mhm.
functional alignment role in IT procurement. Many procurement teams generally struggle to communicate that effectively with they're supposed to in the IT. With the certain IT and engineering leaders. So, how can an organization bridge this gap?
Yeah, so as mentioned in my book, procurement professionals do not need to become engineers, but they need to develop a certain level of contextual understanding of technology. When we understand the basics of technology, we can ask better questions, build trust, and collaborate more effectively with IT leaders. Speaking the language of technology definitely improves the collaboration with the IT function.
Yes. So one of the strong theme in your book is that IT procurement is no longer just a procurement responsibility, or I would say a responsibility. So why is this cross-functional collaboration between procurement, technology, or I would say finance, legal, risk, and business teams becoming so important?
Yeah. So technology has become a fundamental enabling factor for almost every organization's success. Sourcing technology is definitely or I would rather say sourcing the right technology is definitely a competitive advantage for any organization. So technology decisions significantly influence both the top line and the bottom line through improved customer experience, operational efficiency, scalability, innovation, business agility, etc. So this essentially means that technology or IT procurement is no longer just about selecting technology or negotiating contracts. It's about fundamentally understanding the business needs, the desired outcomes, and how technology can help achieve them. So technology becomes an enabling function for an organization's success, and no single function has all the answers. Business team needs to understand the objectives, expected outcomes. IT team needs to understand which technology landscape can enable that, the integration needs. Operation teams understands how solution will be adopted and institutionalized in the organization. while security, risk, legal, compliance ensure that the technology could be used safely, responsibly, and in accordance with the organization and regulatory requirements. So, technology sourcing, therefore, is a cross functional business capability rather than procurement of IT in isolation. So, the best decisions would emerge when all the stakeholders collaborate to balance business value, technical feasibility, operational practicality, and governance consideration.
Yes, correctly pointed out. So, for professionals that are moving now from traditional procurement to the IT procurement, so what skills or mindset that needs to be changed or needs to be critically overviewed?
This is really a good question, and I would probably spend more time on this topic than maybe any other question because this sits at the heart of why I wrote this book. What I have seen, one of the recurring patterns many organizations is that strong procurement professionals are often moved to IT procurement because they have been successful in other procurement categories. Unfortunately, many of those professionals struggle, not because they lack procurement capabilities, but because the required mindset for IT procurement is fundamentally different. Now, most professionals entering IT procurement come from environment where the focus is on set specifications, upfront pricing negotiations, short-term pricing games, etc. Technology sourcing, as we discussed earlier, is different because the decisions often have a long-term implication on your business outcome, your business operations, your ability to scale, security aspects, customer experience, competitiveness in the market, and resilience of your business. Now, the first mindset change that I would say is developing your basic technology literacy. Now, what I mean, again, I repeat that procurement professionals need not be architects or engineers or developers, but they do need to understand the fundamental technology aspects of the concepts, different delivery models, and industry terminology. Now, in real world, if a technology leader does not see a basic level of technology understanding from procurement, they would often question what value will the can add, because beyond commercial negotiations, they don't see procurement can add value. But if you understand the language of technology, it will help the procurement teams build credibility. They can ask better decisions, better questions. They can also constructively challenge assumptions and then can become trusted partner in decision making. And the second mindset change is moving beyond transactional procurement and approach towards a more strategic, long-term, business-oriented perspective. IT procurement professional, they should be able to connect technology decisions with commercial, with operational, with risk and business outcomes. So technology, as we all know, continues to evolve rapidly, and therefore the curiosity, the continuous learning, and the ability to build that kind of an IT literacy and bridge the business, technology, and sourcing consideration, they become very critical capabilities for long-term success. Now, of course, none of this happens overnight, so it requires a sustained commitment to learn, to be curious, and of course, the practical experience would enhance your learning experience as well. So, my hope is that this book will accelerate that journey by providing a structured foundation that the professionals can then build upon.
Yeah. So you pointed out on long-term value over simple cost reduction. So how should the organization, as an organization, it should practically think about the long-term value in technology sourcing?
Yeah. So now many organizations, especially those who are, I would say, listed in stock markets, etc., short-term cost saving, it's a quarterly circus to show better numbers. Therefore, that also then reflects in how the procurement function thinks about short-term cost savings. My personal take is that organization should focus, especially when you're doing IT procurement, focus heavily on understanding long-term operational and strategic implications. So now most of the technology contracts nowadays are multi-year commitment, and what could appear inexpensive or cheap upfront could potentially become significantly more expensive over time. The true cost is often hidden in areas such as your integration complexity, governance requirements, support models, scalability limitation, dependencies across vendors, regulatory needs, etc. So long-term value requires your organization to look beyond the initial purchase price and consider total cost of acquisition or total cost of operations. So these are two different terms, TCA, TCO, but you guys can Google it. So when you look into the long-term cost implication beyond your initial purchase price, then you will think about, for example, if you're buying SaaS, can the platform adapt to changing regulatory requirements? Will it cost me more? Can it integrate easily with future technologies or business systems? Can it support my organization's market expansions into new market products or geographies? What is the vendor's roadmap? Is it aligned with my organization's future direction? How difficult or easy or costly it would be to exit if there is a change in business need. Now, technology, as I said, is an enabler of business outcomes. So a sourcing decision should not think short term, because it may sound cheap now, but long term it could be extremely expensive if those factors are not considered.
Okay, so I wanted to ask about AI. Like AI and automation are reshaping the procurement rapidly. So how do you see the role of procurement professionals when after, or I would say the coming next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, AI is a buzzword. It has reached
Yeah.
almost everyone, even those who are not dealing with IT technology. People use AI for a lot of crazy things. But you mentioned automation. So automation has been part of procurement for quite a few years, and almost all the P2P and S2P environments we already operate with some level of automation. With AI, however, I think we are still relatively early in the hype cycle. Let's wait for some time to see where the technology and adoption model ultimately settle down. But definitely, AI is creating a lot of disruption, and like for every other business function and industry, it will have a significant impact on how organizations procure, how they evaluate vendors, manage contracts, analyze the spend data, and make sourcing decisions. So at the same time, they will also introduce a lot of new complexity around governance, around regulation, transparency, intellectual properties, and accountability. And as I said, so AI will definitely change the way we procure, but AI will also change the different aspects we need to consider while procuring a new solution or services. And these are the areas which I plan to explore in greater depth in future book. But before any organization could effectively navigate the advanced topic like AI procurement or AI driven procurement, I think it's important to first build the foundation, which this book helps.
Yeah, you're right about it. So AI is now embedded in the into SaaS platforms as well. And you mentioned about cloud services, digital ecosystem. What are the new sourcing and government challenges? What government should do about it for an
Yeah,
organization
yeah,
and also for an
yeah.
organization to be prepared for
Yeah,
this?
as I said, AI is disrupting markets big time, and
Yeah.
almost every SaaS platform that you buy, or even if you are having an IT service provider on board in your organization, they all leverage AI. Some of them are transparent in saying that they leverage AI to build their SaaS platform or tools or
Yes.
code for service providers. So AI has become embedded in platforms and services. What it means that organizations will need to do a better homework or need to do a better research, understand issues such as AI governance, data usage, regulatory compliance. Now, I am in EU, so there is an AI EU Act, which is very an AI Act. It will, I think, sometimes this year or probably next year, it will come into effect. Other geographies have their own AI Act, but more localized. I think EU is one of the most extensive AI Act that will soon come into effect. It means that when we are procuring, we need to be aware of whether we are in compliant AI Act or not. At the same time, let's say the SaaS consumption model will change significantly. It will see agentic AI interacting directly with the platforms and services, and therefore it puts a lot of additional need on procurement to evolve from simply sourcing software to also evaluate how AI changes your operational, commercial, consumption, and risk model across the organization. And as I said again, once you have the strong foundation, then the next step is to understand the AI impact, etc. Topic for my next book.
Okay, so if a reader could take away just one key idea from your book, so what you want it would be?
I would want readers to understand that technology procurement is no longer just a purchasing activity. It is a strategic business capability. And this book was written not only to address the lack of structured learning and foundational guidance for IT procurement, but it's also my humble attempt to give back to procurement community by sharing practical lessons, experience, and perspectives that I have accumulated over many years. My hope is that it helps the organizations build stronger foundations for modern IT procurement while creating greater cross functional awareness of how sourcing decisions influence long term business outcomes. Now, this foundation concepts are also essential for understanding more advanced topics like better cross-functional collaboration, evolving vendor ecosystem, and growing impact of AI-driven disruptions.
Great. So, yeah, you're right. Actually, it's actually building a strategic business. It's very important to learn the IT procurement basics and how it function, and also for the digital transformation, what are the changes, what are the challenges one can opt for as an IT procurement professional. And I'm sure the community will learn more from this book. And also all the best for your upcoming book. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this
Thank
session,
you,
sir.
Ria.
It's a great
Thank,
talking to you.
thank you, Ria. It was a pleasure talking to you as well.